It is that time of the week again around the Premier League, and it is the team of the week. We've got Adam McCullough from Full-Time Devils and the True Geordie here to discuss who makes our team of the week this week. So we're going to get straight to it, talk about the position that everyone loves to see at the start of this team of the week discussion, the strikers. So plenty of candidates out there. I'm going to start with the Geordie. Geordie, who are your two strikers do you think make your team of the week straight away? I think it's an easy decision on the first one, right?
Yeah, the first one, I obviously had to see it from your own eyes, unfortunately. Sergio Aguero, it's a no-brainer. Made 5 goals in 20 minutes, absolutely destroyed us. And I'm also going to go for Graziano Pella, who had a great game against Chelsea and, set one up and stuck one in the back of the net.
What do you think, Adam? Do you agree with those choices? Sergio Aguero, 5 goals, 20 minutes?
I'm guessing we're counting Sanchez as a midfielder because
yeah.
I thought he was Arsenal's best player yesterday. But so, yeah, I agree with the two. Aguero simply is the best striker in the league, definitely, and if not the world at the moment. And then I think Graziano Pella, I've been impressed with him because he had that very good start to life in England. And then he had a little dip in form. And you always think the test is now, can you come back from that dip? And I think he has done that. And he's looked really good. He's scored goals against the big teams, scored a couple against us. I say big teams against Chelsea. They're not playing very well at the moment, but he's scored against them at Stamford Bridge. So he's looking really good at the moment. Impressed with him.
All right, and brace yourself here, Adam, because I think me and the Geordie have the same choices here for the midfield. It's not going to get any easier in terms of reminiscing about the game at the weekend. So for the midfield, both myself and the Geordie were exactly the same, I would suggest, in the midfielders we chose. So Alexis Sanchez, Mesut Ozil, and then we have Cabaye and Mane in there. So what's your thoughts on Alexis Sanchez and Ozil this weekend, Adam?
Well, Alexis Sanchez for me was phenomenal. Matteo Darmian has had a fantastic start to life at Manchester United. Let me just say that before I go on to say this. Yesterday, he had the worst game in a Manchester United shirt, and that was all because Alexis Sanchez tore him apart. So, for me, Alexis Sanchez deserves to be in there. Mesut Ozil, on the other hand, I think we made it very easy for him. I'm still not convinced by Ozil in the Premier League, although I don't agree with a lot of the people that are overcritical with him, because I think a player like Ozil can be effective whilst not grabbing the headlines. But yeah, he had a good game. But we did give him the freedom of London, to be honest.
Well, me and the Geordie are two of those critics, I believe. I think both of us combined have made Mesut Ozil cower into a little corner. We've destroyed him in the past. But credit where credit's due, right? Geordie, you had a good game this weekend.
Yeah, it's nice of him to finally fucking show up in a big game. But really, I think Man United helped that a lot by not actually having someone who was actually going to close him down. And if you don't close Mesut Ozil down, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah,
I think that's why Ozil gets criticised so much, because he only plays well when Arsenal play well. When the shit's hitting the fan, he's not going to dig Arsenal out of a hole.
Yeah, when you pay £42 million for a player, what you're expecting is when the shit's hitting the fan, he's going to dig you out the shit. But Mesut Ozil isn't that kind of player at all. Mm-hmm. Alexis Sanchez is.
Yeah,
he's not.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people try it. And what makes me criticise Ozil more is because whenever he does anything, it's all over Twitter. Ozil this, Ozil that. He's the 42 million, and I'm like, shut the fuck up, man.
That's Arsenal fans for you, mate.
Shove the stats up your arse, man. Let's see what he actually does in the game. But to be fair, he actually did turn up this time.
I love how we give him the credit for having a good game, and then we switch it round and just terrorise him again. Ozil must be if Ozil watches this clip, he's probably like, can this True Geordie and Francis from TIT give me a fucking break? I played a good game. At least give me credit.
He did. It's his fans that kind of do me nothing. I actually had to put a disclaimer out on the channel. I was like, just because he had one good game doesn't mean I'm wrong, you know. It doesn't fucking prove. Just because he had one really good game in a big match, he still has to continue doing it. If that happens all season, I'll hold my hands up because, but it's not going to happen all season, is it? Let's face it. We all know it.
So, moving on to another midfielder there that I think, first of all, Cabaye had a good game, I think, with Crystal Palace. I think Crystal Palace, for me, just continue to amaze me. I know it pains you, Geordie, to say this because Alan Pardew isn't exactly your biggest, I would say, fan out there. But Cabaye had a good game, but I'm going to touch on the latter. Mane. I think Sadio Mane is, I think everyone's recognising how talented he is. But against Chelsea, not only did he drift in and amongst that position, but he terrorised defenders. Even when he was up against Azpilicueta, he looked phenomenal. Of course, Ivanovic, I think, is one of the most out-of-form players in the Premier League at the moment. Has been found out. But Mane for me was standing out as the best player in that game. So in that retrospect, Mane, do you think he deserves a position in this team of the week, Jordy?
Yeah, I mean, first, obviously, Kabay. Is Newcastle playing Gouffran, and then you've got Kabay doing that for Palace. Fucking hell, it's sickening. Like, but he's great. Like, he did have a really good game. He dominated West Brom, who basically come to just not lose. But as for Mane, I actually predicted Southampton to win 2-1 with Mane man of the match. I actually gave Chelsea too much credit because they were terrible. And Mane he's actually proven himself to be one of the best players in the league at the moment. Like,
yeah, I absolutely agree. And then we're moving on to our defenders and our goalkeepers. And Adam, I'm sorry, mate, but it's not going to get easier. It's because, for once, the reason why I chose a couple of players different, and I will tell you why I made Glenn Johnson one of my starting defenders in the team of the week, which shocked me. But in and amongst the defenders of the week, the Geordie's got someone like Gabriel in there. He's got Bellerin in there. What did you think of Arsenal's fullback performance against Manchester United? I hate to continue to ask this, but you were there. You've seen it firsthand. Manchester United are devastating.
I wanted to talk about Kabay and Mane. I don't know. Why are you talking about the defence for? I don't think we got at the Arsenal defence enough. And obviously on the back of a 3-0 win against what was the top team in the league going into the weekend, it's gonna look good. But I'm still not convinced by Arsenal. You keep making me talk about Arsenal. They beat Manchester United fair and square yesterday. I hold my hands up. I'm not, saying anything about that. But Arsenal signing Peter Cech, we're papering over the cracks. They still haven't got a centre-half partnership, for me, that's good enough to win the league. And they still haven't got a central defensive midfielder, a barring Coquelin, that's good enough to win the league. So I think they'll have days like this where they beat the big boys, but it's how they perform consistently week in, week out. And I know that I've not answered your question, but that's all I got to say.
I didn't expect to get an answer. That was a good thing about it. But let's talk about Virgil van Dijk. Just as you mentioned there, Kabay. You mentioned Kabay there, Jordy. I completely feel for you on that. Virgil van Dijk, standout player at Celtic. Of course, we just get handpicked by all the mid-level teams in the Premier League. I guess they just want to play.
He's been great, mate.
What's that?
He's been great, Van Dijk. Like, I've been impressed with him.
He's a phenomenal player. He's so composed in the ball. Adam, when you see someone like Van Dijk, could you see someone like him potentially fit into a Manchester United jersey in the future? I don't know if he's at that calibre yet, but Man United were circling the pond at the start of his career when he was performing well at Celtic.
It's hard to say because obviously he's performing in the Premier League. He's obviously got potential, but when players sign for Manchester United, and then it's how they react to when things aren't going too well and the pressure that comes with the club. So no doubt he does have potential. Whether I take him at Man United, there's probably better options out there, but he's done fantastically well so far.
And what about you, Jordy? You put in here that you've got Suarez in there for Crystal Palace.
It's not often that Alan Pardew signs good players, from my experience, but he's actually made a couple of good signings, and Suarez is one of them. He's quick. He's pretty strong, and I thought he did a really good job. I mean, he had an easy time against West Brom, but it wasn't really a week of amazing defensive displays. Do you know what I mean? So it was hard to pick out. So I went with him just by default, really.
Yeah.
What I've been impressed with Crystal Palace is, and I was going to make this comment on Kabay as well, that they're beating teams like West Brom at home. Now, when Manchester United, Arsenal, Chelsea go to Selhurst Park, you're going to get a good game. It's going to be a difficult game, but it's how they play against the teams that are around them. And I think Crystal Palace are picking off most of them. Mm-hmm. I've been really impressed with the way Alan Pardew's got them going. Kabay's the glue that holds it all together.
Yeah,
it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. They've got the two wingers.
What frustrates me, mate, as a Newcastle fan is a lot of people are like, you wanted rid of Alan Pardew. I'm like, I wish we were fucking playing like that when he was I was saying, do you think I want him rid of him if he was playing like that? Well, mental. I mean, really, you kind of. But the thing is, another thing that people aren't taking into account is actually Tony Pulis left Alan Pardew. I know they had Warnock in between, but Pulis actually left a really good nucleus of players from Newcastle are in disarray. He's then come over and took over a decent Palace team. So he's actually got better players as well than what he had at Newcastle. But credit to them, they're actually doing really well, mate.
I want to reiterate what Adam just said, because people often look at teams like Crystal Palace when they come out the blocks like this, similar to when they looked at West Ham last year and even West Ham this year. Oh, it's going to die off. But you just hit the nail on the head there, Adam. Crystal Palace they're giving teams like Chelsea and other big teams a good game, but we've seen Arsenal beat them as well. But they're performing against the teams that are around them, and they're consistently winning. That's where it's different, because when you see teams like West Ham have a phenomenal start and they're beating Manchester City and they're beating Arsenal, but then they come up against a team like Sunderland, they concede 2 goals in the first half, and fair play to them, they brought it back and managed to get a point out of that game when it really should have been Sunderland for the taking. But Crystal Palace, for me, are a standout team so far this season, because it's not like they're peaking too early. They're having games where they're frustrated, but they're adapting and they're changing around and they're still winning and picking up points. I think a lot of credit to them. And I can't believe none of you have put Glenn Johnson in there. Jordy, this is a guy who's came under all of our criticism. He had a phenomenal Pirlo-like pass to set up Stoke for a goal. How can he not get into your team of the week when you see Glenn Johnson assisting a direct pass? He has to get in there, surely.
Well, he does owe a big thank you to Tim Sherwood for taking off Jolyon Lescott and leaving a gaping hole in the middle, to be fair. But, all right, he gave a good pass, but he's still shite, wasn't he?
Come on, man, guys.
He's the most laughable fullback I've ever seen in my entire life.
We've conceded 9 goals between us, scored 1 all weekend, and you want us to come on and praise Glenn Johnson. You are taking the piss this week.
I love it.
All right, lads. Well, as always, and then to finish off, we don't want to round up without it. Jordy's get Peter Cech in there in goals. I think that was a safe option as well to put in. And I won't ask you, Adam, what you thought of Peter Cech's performance, because I think
the only one that turned up for United this week was Anthony Martial, and he tested him once or twice. And let me end this on a positive. Anthony Martial made me feel sane yesterday.
Nice.
Watching that lad, he brought my sanity back, because he gives you hope as a Manchester man.
Do you know what the scariest thing is? From an outsider looking in, Anthony Martial at 19 is Manchester United's best player.
I said this yesterday, that when we're looking at Anthony Martial, a player that we signed at the back end of the window and a player that everyone questioned, and he's outperforming not only someone who's classed as one of the best players at the club, but our captain. It's saying something, man. He's brought a different...
Do you know what I like about him, mate? You know when, Francis, you were saying about Aguero's movement?
Yeah.
The only player I've seen who moves a bit like Aguero in the Premier League is probably Martial, actually. He's like very similar the way he moves around.
And he's comfortable, is as comfortable through the middle as he is wide. When he's got a defender standing on one-on-one with him, 75% of the time he's beating them. He's phenomenal. His footwork's class. And I don't want to get overexcited with him. Obviously, he could go on a goalless drought for the next 3 months, but the potential is definitely there. But
Adam, even if he does go on a goalless drought, like, this is one thing I talk about, is that movement, is you see the space that he creates between the holding midfielders and the defence and another team.
That's the big difference for Manchester United. When we've had Wayne Rooney, Robert Van Persie, Falcao, they've all been dropping deep, asking for the ball.
Yeah.
A defensive line's been able to push up 5-10 yards, close that space with the midfield. Martial's dragging them wide. He's creating that extra 20-25 yard space. Juan Mata has been even better since Martial's come.
Yeah.
And that's because of his movement and his the way he's moving defenses about.
What Martial's done for me is like a neutral, is like it's turned Man United into from a not going to win the league to a they might do.
Yeah.
If he has a magical season.
Yeah, he's the maybe. That's actually what he's done to that club.
And he didn't score, and I said he could go on a goalless drought, but his most impressive games for Manchester United, for me, have come against...
Southampton was a good one, like, to be fair.
Yeah, Southampton was phenomenal, but against PSV Eindhoven and against someone else, I forgot who it was when he didn't score. Those 2 games were his most impressive for me, and he didn't score. That says a lot.
But I think one thing that, to finish on this note, one thing that he has done, though, is shined a massive torch right on Wayne Rooney, because when he makes that run right in behind, you think about it from a tactical standpoint, he creates all that space where you would expect someone like Wayne Rooney to be able to perform. And against Arsenal there, Wayne Rooney had some touches on the ball where he had space, but it just wasn't seen to be... I thought that Wayne Rooney, when he drops into that hole, performs well. I've seen him do it many a times, but when you've got someone like Anthony Martial taking the line up, that should be able to allow for someone of Wayne Rooney's quality, or Wayne Rooney when he's in his prime, to be able to pick up that space and thread passes together and have shots outside of the box. But he just looks a little scared to take up that role in there. And I think that that's something that Manchester United might need to experiment with. When you've got Herrera filling in that hole, I think he can perform in there very well, or even Juan Mata to tuck inside, and then you can play Young and Depay on the wings. I don't know. There's a lot of options in there, but we want to know what you guys think.
Thank you very much for that. I end it on a positive. You bring up Wayne Rooney.
Cheers, mate.
All right, guys. Well, as always, it's been quality. We'll make sure to have you guys all back on. It's going to be a great discussion as the Premier League takes forward and goes further. We have an international break this week, but I want to also throw out a little teaser to your fans out there. We will be having a competition when the Premier League returns. A FIFA code will be given out for Xbox One and PS4, I believe. So we're having a little competition here at TYT Sports. We've got a FIFA code there, free code for you to play FIFA 16. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Thanks again to the True Geordie. Check out his channel, True Geordie, and the True Geordie Gaming channel. Follow them all on Twitter. All the everything will be in the comment section below. Make sure to check out Adam over at Full Time Devils. Thanks again for coming on, Adam. It's been a pleasure. And let's hope for a positive week when Manchester United return back to the Premier League, and we'll get you on for some happier discussions. Come back again.